Alright, what is up guys? Today is June 19th, 2017. It is about 10 o'clock in the morning here in West Chicagoland, and it is a beautiful day out, but I have the garage door closed, and that's because my neighbors are outside, and there's a lot of people walking around outside in my neighborhood, and whenever I do these types of videos with the door open, I always get weird looks from people, thinking I'm, talking to myself, which is really, which kind of really sucks. So that's why I'm keeping the door closed for this video, and we just have the lights on in here, which works just as well. So this is going to be a little bit of a go-kart update. We are preparing to bring one of these go-karts out to our 2017 4th of July family picnic down at the farm in Leland, Illinois. And we got two of our go-karts right here. Before I go ahead and explain what's going on with these guys, I'll go over the collection. I'm not sure how many of you guys have seen these karts before. I did a video on all our go-karts back in 2014, but that really didn't get too many views. It didn't get as many views as I was expecting. So a lot of you probably didn't even know we have go-karts. But I thought I would just go over what we still have. We sold a lot of them. We had like 7 of them in this garage at one point. We sold like 3 of them in the past few years. So these two guys, the twins here, we've had these ones since about 2011 or 2012. These guys are still with us. And the other 2 carts that we have, we've got our dune buggy back here. This dune buggy, it's kind of a dune buggy. I don't think it's technically considered a dune buggy, but it's got the style of one, and I think it's considered more of a go-kart. It's got a huge snowmobile engine on the back. If you guys can see that, I'm sorry that I don't know where all this carpet randomly came from, but that one needs a lot of work with the drive system. I think my dad's got the tires off of it right there, and it just it needs a new axle, something like that. And he wanted to change the clutch on it too. So this one probably I don't expect this thing to be running for at least a few years until my dad can get his bigger projects done. Then we got our Margay racing cart over here. This is another cart that has not ever driven since we got it. I believe that's a Yamaha KT100 engine on it. And this one just also needs a little bit of work with the drive system. One thing my dad wanted to do is, I think, change the gearing so the engine gets more power and less speed, because this thing was winning races before we bought it. It was winning races at 100 miles per hour. So my dad doesn't want that. So, and also we want to put dirt tires on it. It's pretty low to the ground, but my dad wants to get dirt tires on it too, just like that. So those are the only, besides the twins, these are the only go-karts that we have right now. Only 4 of them technically. But what's going on with these guys? Hopefully I can get this video done in one helping, without rambling on too long. But like I said, these are our twin go-karts. We got the red one, we got the green one. For those of you who don't know, these both have US, West Bend, Chrysler, Power B 820 engines on them. And at one point, these things were both running and driving just fine. Back in 2014, we had these things out at the farm. We were tearing up the field with these things. We've done a lot of work to these things. Both of these engines have needed clutch replacements because my cousin Alexis, she was tearing the crap out of these things when we were at the family farm. So we replaced the clutches on both of them. We purchased new tires for them. Some of them still aren't holding air. These three are actually. They're holding air pretty well. But here's what's going on this year. These things have not run in 2 years. The last time we had these things out was about 2 years ago. Up until now, they've just been sitting on top of the dune buggy and on top of the carts over there in storage. We tried to fire up both of these things last year, and we just couldn't get them fired up in time for the family picnic. So here's what's going on. With the red cart, we decided to pull this one off the cart over there first because it was closer. We decided we were going to try to get this one going. And the thing is, these engines will start, but the carburetors on them are just old, and they're kind of a pain in the butt. So the carburetors, I think technically both of the carburetors need a rebuild. But my dad just said, screw it. He's not up for the time to buy. He tried to have me find a rebuild kit for these carburetors yesterday, and I couldn't find one. So he just said, screw it, just buy a new carburetor. So I'm like, okay. So I purchased a new carburetor, actually, right off of US Motor Power's website for one of these. But here's what was going on. This one, we tried to get this one fired up last year, and my dad was just really angry because what happened is that the gas tank that was sitting on this frame right here actually was leaking, and it was not doing that before. The gas tank is actually right over there in that bucket right there. That's the gas tank that was on this one, and we had to take it off because it actually started leaking. And what happened is, ever since my dad purchased this go-kart back in 2012 or whatever, this frame right here was actually hanging down, and the previous owner, the one before that, took zip ties, and they just, where the gas tank was mounted, like right here or something like that, they just put the zip ties under the bolt, secured the bolt down, and they secured the zip ties to the frame right here. And what happened is that due to that thing hanging, the gas tank was basically hanging like that and getting hit with the ground when we would ride this thing, and I think that's what caused the gas tank to wear down and crack and everything like that, and then it was leaking fuel, so that was no good. So we actually had another gas tank sitting back there we were going to use. That one was leaking fuel too. So my dad actually, in an effort to get this thing, to get a new gas tank on this thing and get it going, my dad actually welded this part back on. So now we're nice and secure all the way around here. There's still a lot of parts of it that haven't been welded, but he just kind of went up and down. The welder he was using was junk, and it was not working right and everything like that. But he got enough of it welded to where it's nice and secure now. It's not hanging down. It doesn't need to be held up by zip ties. So then he also put this piece of metal on so he could mount a gas tank to this instead of right to the metal. Then he was trying to figure out if he could find other bars like this to put a second one on to mount a gas tank. We were going to use this gas tank, but my dad's had this one sitting around for a while. He was going to use that for the dune buggy, but he was just trying to find some gas tank to use. Finding those plastic gas tanks was actually a challenge on eBay. We couldn't find anything like that. So what my dad did was he said, since we're running out of time here, why don't we get the green cart down? And we try to do this one. Since this one has a good gas tank, the frame on this one is nice and good. The gas tank on this one doesn't leak. So he said we should try to get this one going. The problem with this one is the engine, actually. And this is something I never noticed until a couple years ago, actually. There is a difference between these two engines. Take a look at this one, and take a look at this one. This one has the metal shroud around this part of it, and what my dad told me yesterday is that what happens when these engines are run, the air from this flywheel comes back through this shroud to cool off this part of the engine. This engine does not have the shroud, and what happened is the engine overheated, and this thing right here, I think this is the muffler right here, this thing kept coming off, and it will not stay on no matter how much you tighten it. And what my dad thinks happened is that the engine got so hot it burned the threads that hold this thing on. It just completely melted them. So we always have to, this thing was falling off like crazy when we were driving it, and it was causing us a lot of problems. So this engine really is going to need some repair work. My dad said a whole new block possibly. So, in other words here, we've got a good frame and a good engine. Good frame, good engine. I think you guys know what needs to happen in order to get one of these carts going in time for the farm this year. We're going to do an engine swap. This engine's going to be going onto this cart. They're the same engine, so it should be pretty much the same thing. But that engine's going onto that cart, and that engine will... the red cart's going to be without an engine for a while until Dad can get that one fixed, and that one will go on here at some point. But right now, we're just trying to get one of these carts going. It's not a huge deal that both of them are going. We're not going to be able to have both of them going, but on the bright side, we should have one of these going. Hopefully, if my brother and I can get the engine swap done today. We're going to have at least one cart to bring out there, so it's going to be the green one that's going to be going out. We'll have this one to bring out there, then our neighbor down the street who's actually into go-karts and dirt bikes and everything like that is going to let us borrow his mini bike and bring it out there. So we won't be completely without toys. My family always brings a lot of crazy toys out there too, so we always have a good time regardless, even if we don't bring anything out. But so basically, like I said, pretty self-explanatory. These bolts are coming out, this engine's coming off, then these bolts are coming out, and this engine is going right to that cart. So to disconnect the throttle, disconnect the fuel lines have already been disconnected, I'm pretty sure, and everything like that, and we should be ready to go here. I'm not sure how much video I'll be able to record of the actual engine swap. I'll try to set a camera up over here or something like that so you guys can see what's going on. But I'll try to record a little bit of it, but at the very least, we're going to try to get this engine off today and try to do the best we can to hopefully get that engine onto here today, get the chains hooked up, get the carburetor hooked up to the fuel line, get the kill switch hooked up, and then it's just going to be a matter of doing some carburetor work. Hopefully, we have a new carburetor on the way for this one. So my dad's just going to not even deal with cleaning the carb. He's just going to replace the carb altogether. And then we should have a pretty good running go. Oh, yeah, and then the other thing my brother and I are going to do is this tire's coming off. Since it's no good, we don't want any flats out there. So that tire's coming off, and we're going to steal one of the tires off of this cart right here. Probably this one, since it's in the same spot, and this one looks pretty good. So we actually replaced a couple of these tires with brand new tires. You can see where this one even still has a little bit of tread on it. So, I'm not sure if these things sticking out are called tread. I think they are, but this one is much newer. We've used it a couple times out at the farm and everything like that. So I'll keep you guys updated if I am able to do video updates in the middle of it. Then I will tack those onto this video. But there's your guys' go-kart updates, and we'll see how this engine swap goes. Alright guys, it is 2 days later, June 21st, and a little bit has changed since the first part of this video I recorded a couple days ago. We've got the green cart right here, and the engine swap with the red cart is complete. I apologize I didn't get any video during the engine swap. My brother and I came down here, we got it done, and that was pretty much it. I didn't feel like pulling the camera out and showing it, but I'll go ahead and show the finished product here. First of all, we have a little bit more space in the garage now to finish this job up right here. The red cart, after we did the engine swap, we put the red cart back up onto the cart where this is where the green cart was, actually. We had the red one sitting on top of there, but here it is, all elevated now, and this one is going to be put on the back burner for right now. Like I said, it's got an engine that, at this point, it's got the green cart's engine, which needs some work. The frame needs some work. It needs a gas tank. It's going to need a new tire eventually. So this one is, it's going to be a while before this one is ready to hit the field again. But the green cart is very close. Like I said, here's a close-up on the red cart's engine now on here. I mean, it really doesn't matter because, like I said, it's the same engine. These are both US 820 engines, but it's on, and you know, it was a custom design. You can see where everything is not perfect, but the engine is secured down. Chains are tight. This one actually came loose. It was loose, maybe. Yeah, there we go. It's a little bit loose, and it's going to need to be, we're going to need to probably loosen the engine bolts and pull the engine back one more time. But this chain is nice and tight. We're pretty straight. Everything looks pretty good. And as I was saying, it's a custom go-kart design, so everything's going to be a little bit sloppy, a little bit off. We're not quite, you know, completely straight with the engine, but that doesn't matter as long as the chains are nice and straight. The drive system's good. We've got our kill switch hooked up here. We've got our fuel line hooked up to the carburetor. We've got our throttle. So here's our gas pedals right here on these carts. These have I've always liked these go-karts because they have two gas pedals on them. They're both connected to the same thing, but these are the actual pedals here, and then for people with longer legs like myself, they're extended out to there. So, but as you guys can see, there's the linkage right there, nice and hooked up. Now, I told you guys that, oh yeah, and we got fresh gas in the tank too. When my dad came home, we fired this engine up. It ran for we got it to run for about 20 seconds with a lot of cranking. It ran for about 20 seconds and then it died. We actually have an air leak in this fuel line. So what we're going to be doing, like I said, we still have a new carburetor on the way from, directly from US Motor. And I don't think I made this clear in the last video. We're not going to be throwing this carburetor out just because it needs to be rebuilt or anything like that. My dad's just going to put the new one on, and then we'll rebuild this at some other time. We're not going to throw it out or anything like that because that would be a huge waste. But we bought a new fuel line for it because this one has an air leak, and it's going to need a new carburetor too because we just, you know, when we started this thing up, like I said, it ran for we got it to run for maybe 20 seconds, but it just kept dying. And that's the problem with these engines. They just don't, the carburetors on them are very, you know, kind of finicky, you know, they're very touchy. And if you let them sit for a while, then it takes a while to get these engines started and running properly. So, but like I said, we have a new carburetor on the way and new fuel lines, so hopefully that should get us running pretty solid, you know, without dying. And my dad said he suspects we will have problems with the clutch out at the farm, so he's going to send the other clutch with us too. Not that I feel like doing a clutch replacement while we're out at the family picnic, but that's done. So, you know, like I said, as I already told you guys, it's not perfect. The carburetor is going to be coming off, so the linkage is going to, the throttle is going to have to come off again. The fuel line is going to have to be pulled off. Here's the air filter right here, which is not on. My dad was manually choking it with his hand, and you know, that's pretty much all there is to do with it. The brakes on this thing are solid. Oh yeah, forgot we changed the tire too. So the tire that was in this spot on that cart, now the tire that isn't holding air is on that one, and the good tire is on this cart. So these tires are solid. The brakes are solid. So we got solid gas tank, solid frame. So this thing will be ready to go, you know. And as I was saying, as I've already said for like the 10,000th time, if we even if this thing goes down while we're out there, which it probably will, after like 20 minutes of riding, something will go wrong on it, I'm sure, which that's always happened in the past with both these carts. That always happens. You know, we brought these things out 2 years in a row, I'm pretty sure, and within 20 minutes, both of them were down. So, even if these things go down, we'll still have that mini bike to bring out that the neighbor is going to borrow to us. So, I have a feeling this thing will be coming back broken once again, but we'll still we'll get it going. You know, we'll see how it runs when we get the new carburetor and fuel line on it. I'll keep you guys updated on this. I apologize. I'm not going to try to start the engine now because we don't have good suction from the fuel tank. But you know, I'll keep you guys updated, and I will do some videos when we actually are able to fire this thing up and when we get it out there and drive it. You know, so you guys can kind of join in the fun a little bit. But there's your go-kart update. Engine swap is came out. The engine swap was a success, I'll say that. You know, it really wasn't that hard either. Very successful engine swap. We actually had to change the motor mount. That's the other thing I forgot to say really quickly, is that the motor mount, this whole piece down here, had to come off of the other engine, because the motor mount that was on that engine, how it's configured is the engine was actually, instead of straight up like this, the other mount, which is on that cart right now, is actually, the engine is a little bit like that. And that was causing a problem with the chains being tight. We couldn't get the chains on. This one was way too long at that point, and this one was way too short. It was just a huge pain in the butt. I'm like, why isn't this working? And my dad's like, did you try changing the motor mount? And I'm like, oh. So, anyway, there's your guys' update. Thank you for watching, and that'll be it.